Whether he chooses to confront me or not, whether he has dignity and honor or not, it's just a matter of time. My ideas are already there. I've already impregnated your organization. I took Turning Point USA and I fucked it.
Whoa.
I took your organization, I took your baby, Turning Point USA, and I fucked it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I've been
Okay.
And that's why it's filled with groypers. That's why your whole crew, that's why the people around you, that's why your chapter presidents, that's why your attendees, they're all groypers.
You know what else is filled with groypers? Grandmother's basements. Saturated throughout this entire nation with groypers.
So whether you choose to confront me or not over the honor of your Turning Point USA, it's immaterial to me. I'd like it. I just get a sick satisfaction out of it.
I bet you do.
Because I like to win.
And there we have it right there. Now, to all the non-basement dwelling groypers out there, which essentially means anybody with a fractile of dignity and humanity, I'm sure you've already come to the conclusion that Nick is either not to be taken seriously or is to be taken very seriously, right? Either he's the type of person you just simply ignore because it's utter nonsense, or he is a very dangerous individual. Now, I just so happen to be one who came from the first camp, and I've made my way steadily into the second one. I believe that this was nothing more than a rage baiter. This is somebody who mastered the art of galvanizing the idiots on the internet. I thought that's what this was. I now realize that this is somebody who has a very real impact in the real world. As a matter of fact, there was I guess an article that broke or some story that broke about these kids' chat log that was leaked. And they were talking about how much they loved the little mustache man. And, some people said, well, these are kids, you should have minded. Even the vice president said, well, we shouldn't be looking at it that way. These are kids and we all say stupid stuff. And I just so happen to take a little bit of a different angle, especially because of the line of work that I'm in and the information I'm exposed to on a daily basis. I happen to understand the very real nature of that sort of shift in consciousness. When you have people celebrating the little mustache man, viewing him as the good guy at scale in the mainstream. See, when you have something in the fringes, it seems to have no real impact until you realize that every single one of these movements, whether it was the Nazi movement or, it was Stalin-esque communism, they were fringe. It was not mainstream. It was not seen even as something to be taken seriously until it was. Just like leftism in America. Oh, that more than two genders. Yeah. Okay. And then where do we find ourselves? Our kids being mutilated. So no, I just happen to be one of these individuals who does not take the man formerly known as Nick Fuentes seriously and will now be known as the Mexican white supremacist. And the reason I call him Mexican is because that's how he described himself to a police officer caught on body cam. But we'll get to that later. Now, I could spend an entire hour just talking about the complex relationship between Charlie and Nick, aka Charlie ignoring Nick because Charlie had better things to do, like building something real in the real world, as opposed to creating a legion of groypers, right? Charlie's legacy is building an organization that has real social impact and implications. And Nick is a bridge troll who has been able to hack the minds of the susceptible and the brain dead. And that's no offense to the literal brain dead. Y'all have more mental capacity than the individuals who take this guy seriously and who worship at his throne. Now, that being said, I created a compilation for y'all to really demonstrate what I believe matters most in this day and age, which is to understand the character of the individuals who you're getting information from. The beauty of the age of the internet, the age of social media, the podcast, is that a person can seldom hide who they are. It's not like back in the day, legacy media, where you could hide most characteristics and attributes, where somebody gets to slip up and they cut that out. Maybe they have like a little moment, one of those, we were live and I didn't know we were live type of things. No, here you will get somebody's true sentiment at some point. How do you know that Nick was jealous, or it was essentially saw Charlie as a adversary, as somebody who he had to bring down, in essence, according to his own words? This is not the only clip where he's talking about Charlie in such a way. There was even one just weeks before Charlie was assassinated where he was stating that there needs to be, these Groyper types to go to these TPS or Turning Point USA events, and they need to basically scream Charlie down to harass him about the Jews. But anyway, we're not here for that today. What we're here for is to show the character so you can understand who and what we're dealing with. And I pray that every now and then we have the trickling effect, and, God leads one of his lost sheep into a part of the algorithm like this one, and they get a wake-up call. But I also understand that there will be Groypers in my comment section who are ready to defend their Lord of Lords, King of Kings, the Mexican white supremacist himself. So without further ado, let's get into this right here.
Do you think any of us, any of you watching, me, Tucker, Candace, Dave Smith, do you think any one of us woke up one day in America in the 21st century and we, out of a clear blue sky, became really interested in age-old anti-Semitic tropes? We woke up one day and started believing 19th century ancient tropes about Jewish people, these like anachronistic anti-Semitic blood libel? Of course not. We were pushed here.
Oh, that's interesting. So, what really caught my attention about that first clip there is that he essentially rounded them all up and put the label on them that all of us have already placed on them, which is, the queen of all cuckoo, or the queen of conspiracy, queen of confusion, old Candace. We have King Katarlson, who has now forever been crowned by his gods over there in the Middle East. And we have Dave, the somehow comedian Smith. These three individuals were lumped together with Nick in order to create what point? That, we just didn't wake up one day smearing and essentially speaking on things that are considered as New Age blood libel. So, no, absolutely. Let me go ahead and mind you, I need to cleanse myself of this as immediately as I do it. But sometimes, you just got to tap into the spirit of what you're dealing with. We didn't just wake up one morning and decide that we're going to be Jew haters. No, it didn't happen that way. We were forced to. That's essentially how this dude sounds right here. They were forced to become Jew haters. Now, I would believe that what forced them into that position is likely how profitable it is to be a Jew hater. It's incredibly profitable on the internet. In the world of conspiracy theorists, it's an easy access into a massive audience. And I believe for, Nick here, the Mexican white supremacist, I believe it has to do as much with the influence, even more so than the money. Something I also believe about the queen of conspiracy, the queen of confusion, Candace. I believe for them, it is bigger than money. Tucker, I believe it's mostly profit, mostly financial, and a lot of these other characters. These two, I believe this guy right here has a deep insecurity, inadequacy problem. He doesn't see himself as enough, and so he mirrors himself off of how much influence he has. That's why he continues to refer to the people who listen to him as these Groypers. I mean, think about that. If you were to name your audience, you essentially take ownership of that audience. Not once did Charlie say, my turning point-ites or something of that nature. He didn't give them a name. It's not like the Beehive or, the Little Munsters with Lady Gaga, the Barbies with Nicki. It's always a narcissistic element to it. Again, as I stated, today we're getting into the character of this individual. See, you could take the words they say, the things they say, and some of the time they'll say things that are accurate in order to bring in the casual listener to nod along. You got black folks now nodding along to things that people like myself, like Officer Tatum, etc., have been saying forever, critiques upon modern black culture. When we say we're sellouts, but when Nick says it, well, he's right. He's on to something. I think I like that guy. And so that allows for him to be able to push in the poison, right? Rat poison, 5% arsenic or whatever the poison may be, 95% cornstarch. You don't need much. You do not need much in order to take the life of the individual. And that's exactly what happens in these cases. Maybe not in the most literal sense, but your quality of life at the very least is zapped from you. And at the worst, well, you become a hate-filled, resentful basement dweller who has no true relationship with God. And so therefore, you die in your sin. But we will get to that later. Let's get into the next clip.
Hitler was a...
That's right. This is giving theater kid right here.
was a pedophile and kind of a pagan. It's like, well, he was also really fucking cool. Anybody that watches these videos where he's rolling down the street and stuff, it's like, this guy's awesome.
Now, the basement dwellers out there, and this is no offense to my sane, humane basement dwellers. You might just be in that condition right now. Grandma's basement might be the best place you can be at this moment in time. If you are not a basement dwelling groiper, you are outside of this count. But I'm going to speak to them personally at this point. Dear basement dwelling groiper, with the Cheetos in your belly and the ever expanding waistband and another order of Uber Eats, you can no longer use the excuse of he's just joking. You can't pick and choose when it's satire and when it's not. The very same guy who has defended the little mustache man multiple times and made statements such as the one you see right in front of you there, you could only assert that he means what he is saying. Because that's oftentimes a psychological weapon that is used in this psyop warfare. If you do not want to take responsibility for what you're saying, you label it as humor. A lot of people do this in their real lives. I'm sure all of us have done it at some point where we mask what we actually want to say with a little bit or a lot of bit of humor. But we mean it. At the very least, there is a fractal of truth in what we are saying. When it comes to the Mexican white supremacist, he believes what he is saying, or at least believes it enough to where he can continue to carry on the act. Maybe he uses it as a means to galvanize this cult following of his. And if that's the case, then you're as good as believing it. So, again, when he is making these statements, we can no longer simply see it as, well, he's just joking. In the same way, you can't look back in 1933, 1934 and say, well, they don't really mean what they're saying. You can't say that having the context you have now. And I'm not foolish enough at this point in my life to believe that it will be any different because we're in quote unquote different times, because we are in the age of October 7th, 2023. We're in that age right now. That isn't some make-believe, makeshift thing that happened all the way back then and could never know. That actually happened. And it was based upon Jew hatred, the very same thing that drove Hitler. So Nick becomes a perpetuator of that message. I've got time today. We're breaking this all the way down. What is his intention and his purpose? Maybe it's as simple as I want power. As he stated, I want to win. I will tear down Turning Point USA, though it has been an incredibly successful endeavor in creating a political consciousness within the youth. I will tear it down just so I win, just so I self-aggrandize, just so I feel like a somebody. Somebody, please see me. Please notice me. So if he's using this entire platform of Jew hate as a means to gather those who are genuinely that, there's no difference. There's no difference. If I don't really believe in the little mustache man's words, but I claim to, and I push his beliefs and I sell his books and I push his ideology, it's going to end up in the very same result. So do you think it's going to matter at the end of the day? Do you think it matters in the court of law when you say, I was just joking when I took that man's life? I didn't really mean it. No, we're not here for the kikis and the ha-has today. Nah, we're here to break things all the way down.
Everybody watches these videos where he's rolling down the street and stuff. It's like, this guy's awesome. But I said, look, it's really hard for anybody to unify with you, Matt.
So this is referring to Matt Walsh, and I did an actual full-blown video about this. And I happen to agree on this stance as far as, dear Matt Walsh, no, we're not just going to unite for the sake of uniting with individuals that have directly opposing values that we do. The either sociopathic, psychopathic, narcissistic, Machiavellian types. No, we're not about to join up with them just so we can be a bigger group. No, I'd rather stand alone and be in truth than be in a lie with a whole bunch of groypers. I'm good.
Because you work with Ben Shapiro, Andrew Klavan, and Jordan Peterson. And they are all in the pocket of Israel. And we know that these people, they hate us. Like anyone that is not down with Israel, they actually hate. And like,
there's more.
It's not a Christian thing where it's like we love our enemies. No. Like they want us dead. Just like the left wants us dead. Shapiro wants us dead. Life is hard.
Again, is that just satire? Is he just kidding there? Now, he did the same thing there that Queen of Confusion, Conspiracy Candace, did with Josh Hammer, where it's making an insinuation that this man had some sort of cause to take Charlie's life or to be involved in that. Dragging a man who was a friend of Charlie into now being a suspect is what these sorts of maniacal, sociopathic, psychopathic individuals would do for their own selfish reasons. Nick sat there and said that Ben Shapiro wants them dead. Benjamin, the rapper Shapiro. Now, again, this goes back to this entire thing of, well, Israel is behind all of these assassinations, etc. It's really just coded word for the Jews. Okay, so we're just going to completely negate the fact that Charlie himself admittedly stated that there's going to be violence out of the left, that they will not be able to take the movement down in any other way. And so therefore they will take his life, or they will take conservative pundits, conservative speakers' lives through acts of violence because they can't debate. Speaking of leftists who have shown a track record of being violent. Now, instead of that, they replace it with their conspiracy theories. And I'm using that word intentionally. I'm not using it to belittle or to downplay anything, because they're genuine conspiracies, but these are theories that they're using. This is real tinfoil activity. And again, it's being used intentionally and consciously. This is psychological warfare. And deeper than that, this is spiritual warfare. If you do not understand what we are currently in the midst of, then you will get caught up in it. Simple as that. And I felt an urging, a calling from God to say, teach my children the fundamentals of thinking these things through. It's not because we're dumb, not because we can't. It's simply that most of us have not been placed into systems that allow for reason, that allow for genuine discernment, especially to prep us for a time like this when we're saturated and inundated with an inauthentic amount of information. We got to be aware of the context of the times we're in. So I got time today. I'm going to go ahead and break this down. You have a guy who explicitly states himself, almost an admission, to say that, yes, I am in alignment with these age-old blood libels, these age-old Jewish tropes. He makes that very clear. And truth be told, out of everybody in his class, I have a little respect for him because he says Jews as opposed to Frankists, Zionists, and and just simply the Israeli government, IDF. He doesn't use the cloaking language always. Sometimes he does when it is necessary to push forward whatever sort of message, but he is not afraid to just say Jews. So that I can respect with the fractile. I'm not a fan of, you know what? At least he says it, right? So here's the same guy who admits to being involved in spreading these blood libels, but then he states that he is forced to. This is the same individual. Yes, it's not the same clip, but this is the same person, right? We have to quantify it in that. It's the same person who would state that a Ben Shapiro wants anybody, let alone those who criticize Israel, unalive. Now, Candace Owens, in the midst of Daily Wire, was already going down this rabbit hole, working for Ben Shapiro, not just a Jew, Ben Shapiro himself. Ben Shapiro, who employs Christians, who employed whatever Candace is, still trying to figure that one out. Ben Shapiro wants them. Don't you think if he wanted that to happen, because oh so powerful Jews are in control of the whole world, don't you think they would have done it already? Like, Nick, do you think you would have gone past episode 6? Do you think you would have made it thus far if this was reality? But again, it's not about reality. It's about painting and creating a perception for you, creating a frame of reference for you to think from, as opposed to you thinking for yourself, taking data points and making them make sense for you, as opposed to you reasoning through each one, making these drastic correlations. And again, it's going to make sense once we uncover who this guy actually is in the grander scheme of things. How did he get to this place of prominence? I'm not saying, not to take away from his talent, because he has a talent of communication. It's not to take away from him building a platform, but it's to say that, well, he may just be one of these guys who is being allowed. In the same way, there are multitudes of these psychological operations that are taking place to sort of fracture MAGA, to fracture this new conservative movement, to co-opt it, or to even have conservatives viewed as whatever this guy is.
People in this country. For Jews, not so much.
Okay, so.
Dad. Life is hard for people in this country. For Jews, not so much. You go to where they live, in Miami, in LA, in New York. It's nice. In Chicago, you know where they live in Illinois? They live in Highland Park. They live in Skokie. These are affluent, nice areas. It's hard to live there? Oh, please.
So that right there gave me a little bit of insight about maybe there actually is this age-old sort of resentment towards Jews, because Nick was born in Illinois, I believe. I believe he grew up in Chicago, if I do not stand corrected on that one. Let me go ahead and just look it up while we're here. Why not? Let's see. He was, yeah, sure enough, he's a Chicago kid. So, let's say grow up in, not necessarily affluence or whatever it is, and you're seeing these other people prosper. Maybe that would build some level of resentment within you. I can't relate. That just never was my thing. I was always inspired by the people who were doing better. When I saw the Chinese community or the Asian community in the Bay Area, the Indian community, Pakistani Christians or Iranian Christian community who are prospering in these places, I took notes, folks. I took notes. I do to this day. That's why even when it comes to the successful Jews, now, of course, he won't bring up the fact that most Jews are not financially well off, right? Around the entire planet. I mean, my workplace happens to be close to a community of Jews living 6 or 7 in a small apartment, multitudes of them who are scraping to get by. But again, that does not matter because that does not necessarily fit into this specific narrative. Now, I want to get into sort of our second act here, right? Which is, who is this guy actually? Now, this is a very short clip, and it's the one that I explained to y'all earlier. Body cam footage. I believe this was after, what was this? Somebody had doxed his house or something. Somebody had tried to assassinate him. I'm sure he puts that on a Jew, even though leftists literally talk about taking his life on a daily basis in their threads. But let's go ahead and get into this.
You're a white supremacist? I'm not a white supremacist. I'm Mexican.
I'm not a white supremacist. I'm Mexican. This is body cam footage again.
Saying you're a white supremacist? I'm not a white supremacist. I'm Fuentes.
My name is Nick Fuentes. I'm not a white supremacist. I am a Mexican. My last name is Fuentes. That's what he states. So the reason I bring that one up specifically is because, first of all, he's built an image around white nationalism, not just patriotism, white nationalism, the superiority of the white race. That's what he's built as far as an image goes, which is why I conclude that this is an individual who has strong beliefs and convictions and certain resentments or whatever it may be. But he's also a master con man. He is King Con, not Kong, Con, C-O-N. King Con. He's a con artist. He will say whatever and be whatever in order to build his following. Simple as that. So, when he is in a candid moment, when it is not his camera there, he gives a little bit of insight about how he views himself when he needs to preserve himself from any sort of criticism or ridicule. I'm not white. I'm Mexican. My last name is Fuentes. Interesting. I just want y'all to clock that one. Keep that in your memory bank. Now, this last one may be the most revealing and the most necessary in the entire lore of the Mexican white supremacist, formerly known as Nick Fuentes. And it's this clip right here from January 6th, which again was a complete leftist psyop, which also is why I'm very suspicious, to say the least, about what y'all about to see here.
Saying you're a white supremacist? I'm not a white supremacist. I'm Mexican. My last name is Fuentes. I know.
Keep moving towards the Capitol. It appears we are taking the Capitol back. Keep marching and don't relent. Never relent. Yeah. exactly how it should be. These politicians don't represent us. They betray us. And now we are forcibly evicting them from the people's house.
That's actually the lesser important part of that entire moment in time, because it turns out that everybody else who was in Nick's shoes on that day was incarcerated except for Nick. How is it that all of them, including people who literally did nothing, genuine innocents, were thrown into prison up to this point where our president will have to give them all pardons? Yet Nick somehow was spared. Can somebody please explain that one there to me? Anybody, please. How is he the only one? Now, my speculations have brought me to this place, and this is speculation. This is opinion. This is not factual. But my speculation is that a man who is the only one not thrown into prison for doing the same thing, if not worse off than the ones around him, same one who is, obviously deplatformed. They always use that one, but also debanked. Now, our president was deplatformed. So, literally everybody was getting it. If you just had a deviating thought from the left, you were deplatformed. So Nick was amongst those. And he was also debanked. But not long after, he received his bank accounts back, which are actually controlled by the FBI. Now, mind you, before this administration here, Trump was still surrounded by his own enemies. His first term, he was surrounded by the swamp and didn't know it, or didn't understand the depth and the extent of it. Even his own vice president would soon be a Brutus in his story. The reason I'm saying all this is it's interesting to me how this is a very individual who somehow got away with things that nobody else did. And now here he is allowed to essentially create some of the deepest fractures in this MAGA movement, the very same movement that he used in order to get to the place that he is now. These are just simply the things that make you go, Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Now, if you'd like to stay around, make sure to click that little subscribe button down there, or you can show some love by going to the description below and clicking on the button titled Buy Me a Coffee. Leave a little something there, or click on the Cash App. Leave a little something here. Till the next time, peace.
I've been up for hours, I've been up for days, staring at the ceiling, I've been counting strays, I've been in my feelings, I've been out of mind, I've been getting visions of the other kind, I've been up for weeks, I'm in the counting blessings over counting sheep. I can never be the type to limit when it comes to me. I used to be the pleaser for the people, I ain't even